outreach director for the Fringe. I have a couple of Fringe announcements before we get started. We have tons of upcoming events. Woo! Our office hours have been growing and growing and growing, and you guys should all come. This next one this week is going to be at 3 clubs, right over there. And that's actually also where we have our mixer after this. Unfortunately, Brandon and Corwin won't be there. You guys can always message them through the Fringe site if you guys have questions afterwards. But I'll be there, and a couple other Fringe representatives will be there, and you guys should all come and have a drink with us. We also have another new series that we've started called Dining About Fringe, which is brand new. We just had our first one this Thursday. Our next one is not this coming Thursday, but the Thursday after that at Eat This from 6 to 8. We have drink specials, drinks, but also appetizers, so that we can kind of have a more dining experience, get to know each other in a little bit more quiet of a setting. Please follow us on all social. It's at Hollywood Fringe. If you're not signed up for our newsletters, please make sure that you're getting those. That's where we're giving you all of the information that's coming out in the next couple weeks. There's going to be so much information that you guys should really know. So if you don't have that for any reason, please feel free to talk to me afterwards, and we can figure out why. And without further ado, I want to announce 2 really great people who are really, really great at what they do tech-wise, that have all the answers to things that I don't have answers to. Brandon and Corwin, you guys want to come up here?
Hi everybody, thank you for coming to the How to Tech Your Fringe workshop. We have a very exciting workshop planned for you, and it involves video. I just accidentally shut off the projector, so while Corwin fixes that, I'm going to tell a joke. A horse walks into a bar. The bartender says, "Why the long face?" The horse says, "I'm doing a Hollywood Fringe Festival show. It's my first year, and tech is coming up, and I'm really freaking out. And I can't seem to find any information on it. And so to be completely honest, I have just been eating my feelings." Oh, it's back. Okay. So, welcome to our
That was fantastic. That was actually fantastic.
Thank you.
This is why you don't rely on video. And I'm going to come in real hot on that, and so is he. But I know there's going to be people who'll do it anyway, so we'll try to make sure that it doesn't suck for you.
All right, before we get started, let's do a quick little poll. How many people here have done the Hollywood Fringe Festival before? Welcome back. You guys are killer.
Cool.
How many people is this your first year at the Hollywood Fringe Festival? Raise your hands, nice and high. All right, welcome. You guys are in for a fantastically fun month. We're very, very happy to have you here. How many people is this your first time doing any type of Fringe Festival at all? All right, a lot of crossover there, very good. And for how many people is this your first time producing your theatrical venture? All right.
Nice.
Welcome to the fold. We're thrilled to have you here.
Have you been sleeping? Have you been eating?
I just started sleeping the other day. It's great.
Good. All right. See, we're good. Everything's chill.
Write a little note about it that says, "This is nice and I feel good," and just kind of describe that, and then pin it to your wall.
Yeah.
And then when you're having a bad week, you can open up that little note and remember how lovely things feel when they're lovely.
We're going to say a lot of stuff that sounds like jokes, but that's totally a smart thing to do. Get a pack of sticky notes and write down cool stuff that happened during the day and stick it so that when you wake up and you're freaking out and you're laying there having trouble sleeping because you don't know if the show's going to sell, you can look at it and shit.
So,
Self-care.
the purpose of this workshop is to help you prepare for the tech process for your show. Corwin and I are both freelance designers in Los Angeles. I'm primarily a lighting designer. Corwin does sound and video. We have done many, many, many Fringe shows. And we both believe that if you walk in prepared and if you do your homework, Fringe tech does not have to be a horrible, stressful experience. It's going to be exhausting. It's going to be a difficult endeavor. But if you prepare for it properly, it should be quite fun and just another lovely element of your experience. So
that's all of the information you need to tech a Fringe show, and thanks for coming. It's the oldest joke in the book, but like when someone walks in late and you wrap it up, I'm sorry. I'm gonna do a lot of dad jokes, even though I'm not a dad.
So we have a couple bullet points we want to hit. We're going to go through our presentation. We'll put it up here as we go.
Oh, and for those of you furiously prescribing notes, this is a PDF you can download.
Yes, everything that we put up here is, I believe, Ellen, is it already up on the Fringe site?
Yes, it is.
So everything that you're going to see today already exists on a link. All of our resources are available to you if you need to check on anything.
On the event page.
On the event page for this event. We will do a Q&A session right after our presentation. So let's, if you wouldn't mind, keep the questions, write them down if you want, and we'll hit them all after, but we're going to just kind of plow through first.
You don't want to break our meticulously rehearsed performance.
It's true. What's next?
What does my show need?
Well, Corwin, I would recommend that you take an honest and thorough inventory of your technical needs for your show.
A fearless and searching moral inventory. That's step 4, I think.
One of the things that's interesting, this is, I think, the 5th year that we've done this workshop. The Hollywood Fringe Festival has really evolved in the amount of technical resources that are provided in many of the venues. And it didn't used to be the case, but most of the venues now do come with a stage manager who will also know how to program basic lights and sound. There is usually a representative at each venue who oversees tech things. You should already know what is available to you through your venue from your previous negotiations. But today, one of the things we really want to stress is not just how to get it done, but how to successfully think about what types of design your show needs. And one of the things that we think is important to remember before we even start getting into the nitty-gritty of how to do it is that Hollywood Fringe shows are not really about storytelling through technical marvel. And a lot of the shows in this festival that really succeed because they are humans on a stage telling a story. And that doesn't mean that tech isn't very important. Even in a very minimalist capacity, the lighting and sound, video, props, scenic elements that you bring in can have a very strong effect on how you tell the story. But the first thing it's important to do when you start to approach the design and tech for your show is think about what elements do I need to tell the story, and what elements just feel like they should be there, but might not actually be necessary for this production. Because if you can really pare it down to the essential elements to the storytelling, it will actually make your storytelling stronger, and it will make your tech experience a lot easier.
Who's doing a one-person show? Nice. So welcome the entire one-person show contingent on Hollywood Fringe. That's awesome. You might feel compelled to use visual aids for your production because it's like, look at how wonderful the thing I'm talking about is. Isn't it cool to purchase a timeshare, etc. One thing that can really elevate that is not getting anything in the way of you. Don't be upstaged by your own materials unless it's a bit. Like if you're doing a funny show, probably that's going to help you a lot because you can cut away and like send the energy back and that kind of stuff. It's a little hack because a lot of people definitely do it to death. But if you're not entirely sure about a couple parts like totally killing, then you can cut away to like prop comedy basically.
Okay. So
for stuff that's more organic and authentic, you might want to look at just lighting or look at just one scenic element. If it's a play about loss, look at how compelling this is. It's an elephant in the room.
I'm compelled. If you have a scene that takes place in a Starbucks and you feel like you want to have a slide of a Starbucks and then you need to have the sound of people clinking and talking, and then you think, well, we could bring in a scenic piece like maybe a drop in the back that kind of looks like a Starbucks counter, or you could have someone holding a Starbucks cup. Tells the same story.
Is that in the materials? Did you do a reading? Goodness. That's a really good note. Somebody should write that down.
So what should I expect from my venue?
Whatever you are seeing right now, with the exception of a projector, although I think everybody's got a projector now. I think it's kind of something that is standard.
Yeah.
Some lights, some sound. There's the speaker. And then chairs are, generally speaking, to be expected. But that's kind of it. To be safe, don't expect anything. And because you've already made your fearless and searching moral inventory for what your show needs, you can tick down the list and be like, I need precisely these things, and then ask for precisely these things, and then you will have precisely these things.
Yeah.
That's like a life lesson.
I have a tremendous affinity for all of the people who run the venues of the Hollywood Fringe Festival. These people running the theaters really put 26 hours a day into taking care of their renters during the festival. But that said, it's a lot of people sharing few resources, and so you should already be in communication with your venue. You should know exactly what they have to offer in terms of lighting, in terms of sound. You should hold them to that, but also don't expect things just because one venue has it doesn't mean the other will. So you have to do that communication, do your homework, figure that out.
And also, sometimes things break.
Yeah.
We're doing shows round the clock in venues all over, and several venue owners manage multiple venues that are not next door neighbors. So sometimes something can go kind of south unexpectedly. So be prepared, be flexible, and improvisational.
Yeah.
If your show is about a movie that you made and the big emotional climax is the movie at the end,
Yeah, you might want to dummy-proof that one.
a spare projector,
Yeah.
like know what you're doing. This is a dumb note, I'm sorry. What should I expect a space not to have? We just did that.
We just did that.
We went off book. What do you need to prepare ahead of time though?
All right. So, if you want to have a successful Fringe tech, you need to walk in prepared. You need to think about every design element, specifically lights and sound, things that you cannot design until you get into the space. Because costumes you can do ahead of time, you can do costume parades, scenic pieces can be built ahead of time, you can practice with them in rehearsal space. But lights and sound and video, you want to prepare everything. And this means understanding how you're going to use them to tell your story. This means knowing ahead of time what you're going to do when you get into the room. You have to know what the design is going to be. You have to have a schedule of how long it's going to take to do it. Fringe text will go by very quickly. Be prepared for that. It's going to start and then it's going to be over. And you probably won't be able to get much more tech time because there's another show right after you. So,
Who's done a tech rehearsal in sort of a traditional theatrical before? Okay, that's dope. Who's done a Fringe tech before? Yeah, so that's like 4 folks, 5 folks, that's 2. It's basically like a normal theater tech where you stand around for 10 hours and something is changing and you're not sure what it is. Except it happens in 1 hour and you have to do the whole show. So, and anything you can do to streamline it and not have confusion or ambiguity is wonderful. Like, for example, making cue sheets.
who here does not know what a cue is in the theatrical definition? Awesome. All right, you guys are my favorites. So you all know what a cue is. You can have light cues, you can have sound cues, you can have video cues, you can even have deck or rail cues if you have moments in the show where a piece of scenery needs to move.
You probably aren't flying anything. But some people
Some
do.
people are going to try. I'm doing an aerial show. First thing you want to do is create a cue sheet. And a cue sheet is a little table. I like to use Google Sheets or Excel. And you want to go through the script and you want to note every time a cue needs to happen. Sorry. Okay.
Sorry.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ellen.
Cheers.
But we're going full round. This is going to be fun.
Fantastic. You guys, last time we did this, the whole thing sold out and no one showed up. And so ticket sales closed, and then we got there and there were like 20 people in the house. We were very upset. So this is really wonderful to see all you guys here. Welcome.
Cue sheets.
All right.
We have a bunch of sample cue sheets on the link. The link goes to a Google Drive folder that I didn't prep because I'm really clever.
Okay.
But it's kind of dead air anyway because you can see them and they're all there. Right? No? Anyone want to see it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Fine.
Is this something we have access to?
Yes.
If you go to the event page for this workshop, there will be a link to a Google Drive folder in which you will find this PDF that we're working off of as well as resource sheets, sample cue sheets, sample sound, lighting, info about different types of light boards. We have a list of links to Amazon pages where you can buy various adapters and other small things that you might want to have on you. So we definitely advise you to check out that Google Drive.
I also did not think ahead and check for Wi-Fi, but I'll do that. Moving ahead.
It's very important before you go into a Fringe Tech or teacher workshop that you properly prepare.
Isn't it great?
As a lighting designer, I like to take my script and read through it, and with a pencil, always a pencil, just don't use a pen ever in your life, always a pencil, mark every time a lighting or sound shift needs to happen.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to have an exact idea yet, you're just kind of creating a map. Then you can take that script and you can open up your spreadsheet and you can start to go through and you can write, all right, page 6, line, hi there, what's your name? Light cue, 5, what it should be, description, shift into center stage pool. Now, you can be very specific. You can say this is going to be a blue wash upstage left, or you can say, I don't know exactly, but I know that I want the mood to change, so you can just write tonal shift into something a little sadder or a little more isolating, kind of figure out what's the emotional quality of that cue. And then you create your cue sheet from there.
This is a dance show that you did.
Yeah, so this is an example of a cue sheet. Feel free to download these and wipe them clean and...
It's called Sample Dance Cue Sheet.
So I've got the name of the dance. This could also be the name of the scene. So you could say scene 1, scene 2, scene 3. I've got the number of the cue. Now, it's funny because I created this 5 years ago. I now like to cue by 5s, so that if I need to insert cues, I can.
So like 5, 10, 15,
Yeah.
20. Otherwise, if you do it this way, then you get 1,
1.7.
1.75, 1.75F, etc., etc.
However, there are a couple of venues where they actually give you a cue stack where you only have so many cues.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are in a space where they have, where they say you have cues 101 through 150, then you probably want to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you are in a space that has a nomad where you can number all of your cues individually and
Sacred Fools, I think.
yeah, doesn't depend on the other show, then you might want to go by 5s so that if in the moment you realize, oh, I need to actually insert a cue in here, you have a cue 3 as opposed to a cue 1.5. I've got a description of what I think it should look like.
Quick stompy bit is a warning. She crouches.
Yeah, I've got the moment, which is what's going to actually trigger that cue. You definitely want to make sure that you write down how the cue is called. Is it on a line? If you're doing a slow fade, then you can just say on this line, because it doesn't matter if it's a second or two off. If you have something like an actor goes and flips a light switch, you want to note that this is a 0 count cue, visual on light switch. You want to have as much information as possible, because the more you get all of this sorted out before you walk into tech, the quicker you can rehearse it. The venue stage managers for this festival are really good.
It's been getting better every year, and now there's someone in every space that has your back.
They are really good, and they will take care of you to the best of their ability. But you have to keep in mind that these people will often go 14 hours straight with maybe 1 meal break, and that they have a lot of different shows in their head. And so if you tell them, call Q5 when this person walks over and hits a switch, they can do that. But if you just kind of say, well, I mean, you know the show, you know how the show goes, they won't, because they've got 20 other shows in their head. So that's why you really just want to dummy-proof, get it all on paper.
Imagine if you were to walk into a space and do a show that you've never seen before and run it with no knowledge of what's going to happen. That's what they do as a job for 15, 20 shows. So do everything you can to make sure that this perhaps hypothetical person who isn't that very real has everything they need to do your show with no rehearsal and no practice. Because the added benefit of that is if something happens to the only person who knows how to run your show, another person can also run your show. It's not great. Sometimes things happen. I have subbed for someone on a show that I knew nothing what was happening, but somebody had to push the button because we had a preview that night. And I walked in and I did not miss a cue. Thank you very much. But that's because of meticulous stage managers and paperwork and stuff like that. So
I subbed a show once at the Bradbury Theater.
Oh.
It was Fahrenheit 451. David Maurer was starring. That
Yes.
had nothing to you guys, but everything to us. It was Fahrenheit 451, and they needed a soundboard off last minute. And I came in, and their prompt book, which we will describe in a second what a prompt book is, was a huge mess. And there would be moments in the script where it would say, turn back 2 pages, and the dialogue would continue here, and it would jump here. A lot of the scene was pre-recorded dialogue, where he would have a conversation with a pre-recorded voice, and I played that pre-recorded voice. I think that I got about 60% of the cues correct, and the other 40 were an unmitigated disaster. And you had an actor on stage trying to have a conversation where he says his line, and a voice is supposed to say their line, and instead the Baskerville Hound went roof. I think that if there is a lesson to be learned from this, it is that you should prepare your prompt book, you should prepare your cue sheet as if some idiot lighting guy named Brandon is going to run your sound. So that if, worst case scenario, you have to get a stranger off the street, someone from the parking lot at Home Depot to come in and press the button, all of the information is there, everything is crystal clear. Corwin, why don't you tell us about a prompt book?
that was my visual callback to the AIDS earlier. It kills. It's an excellent bit. So you can barely read this, I'm sure, because I can't, and I'm standing right next to it. But this is in the Google Drive as well. It is called Sample Prompt Book. Prompt Book. I can also speak. Over on the left-hand side, it says LX1. That's lighting. Electrics. Yeah, I thought it was clever. Quite unsurprisingly, the lights come up at the top of the scene. Then there's a sound cue here, and it says "Win till she lands." Who wrote this play? Something about a small cabaret theater. Goofy. There's a visual where she presses play on the iPod, and I wrote visual here because it's one you have to watch. There's not a line associated with it. Anytime there's something like that where it's like click, lights, ooh, then you want to make sure that it says visual. I'm running a show tonight for opening night that has 9 visual cues. So spoiler warning, you're going to see that later. And then there's a cue here for when she moves stage left. That is lighting cue 2. It's all in red because then you don't have any sort of problem differentiating what is a cue from what is the script, which is especially hilarious if you're doing a play about doing plays and they're saying things like stand by and go, and someone then has to call that on the line that says stand by and go. This has happened. It is a mind.
Now, I will say I personally always prefer to work with paper. And so even though we prepared this as a PDF because I was too lazy to scan something, I prefer to have a printout of the script and to take a pencil and write it in. And the reason for that is because if you're in tech and you realize, oh, you know what, I want to call that lights 2 lines later, it's very easy to just erase, move it down, keep your script, you want to keep it current. Now, you might be wondering, why would you do an Excel cue sheet and a prompt book if they both contain the same information? And the reason for that is because the cue sheet is for when you're building the cues, and the prompt book is for when you're running the show.
It's a lot easier to flash forward in tech for a cue to cue, which is where you do the cue, just cues and cue lines and stuff. For anyone who didn't know that, whatever. But it's a lot easier to flash through that stuff if you have a cheat sheet that says, I'm gonna knock these cues out really quick. I need a full stage, I need a small part, I need this part, I need the light switch. Because then you can just bounce through that really quick.
Now, a lot of
that's the prompt book.
That was the cue sheet.
The cue sheet.
A
So
sheet
you
of
could
cues.
just see a list: 1, 2, 3. 1 full stage blue, 2 blackout, 3 spot center stage, 4, and so you can just go through, build them all one in a row.
And this is more useful now. I think a lighting cue sheet is very useful for you in this context. A sound cue sheet, we're going to get to that next. There's a playback software called QLab that I think every space has. That is basically the same thing as making a cue sheet, except you're also programming the show, so why do it twice? Just put it all in. And you can do that by yourself. You can download it now if you have a Mac computer to pre-program your show and have it all ready. If you don't have a Mac computer, or your space doesn't have QLab, or you're using some other exotic means of triggering sound effects, you should make a sound cue sheet as well. For the same reason, you can knock through all the cues and it helps move things along quicker.
Yeah. A lot of Hollywood Fringe shows, including Corwin was joking that the script that he's showing is a play that I wrote for a Fringe piece in 2013.
Which itself had a Fringe piece inside.
Yes. It's very likely that you are still workshopping your piece, and in rehearsal you might be making changes, and you might be switching moments around, or making cuts, or adding in lines, and that's fantastic, and that's such a joyous part of the festival is the opportunity to freely workshop your work.
For those of you watching at home, and there aren't any because I don't think we're live streaming, there is a continual array of folks arriving that is throwing our vibe off. It's like, 300 people, actually. They're very quiet and polite. You can't see them, but there's 300 people.
So even if your script is completely in flux, even if your personal book that you are directing off of is 300 pages of this and that, and it's all color-coded, you know exactly what it means, type a fresh script for your stage manager, please. If you have a song and there's a lyric that repeats twice, don't write parentheses ×2, copy and paste it twice. Make sure that every word that is spoken in the piece is represented in the script in order. Make sure that it is evenly formatted. Make sure that it is uniform font size. If it's a musical, you can choose a convention such as having the song lyrics in all caps, or bold, or you can format it however you like, but just make sure that it's very clear for the person reading it so that they can follow along with you as you're taking it for the first time.
If you want to even give it to somebody who knows nothing about your show and get some feedback on it before you walk in, that's cool too. Because it should be just any random person should be able to be like, oh, okay, this is something where this happens, this is, he turns on a light switch, he sings a song, and the repeating lyrics thing, that is so huge. I've fallen for that trap many times where it's like, oh, that's the end of that song. Turn off the mics, they're still singing. Come on.
Yeah. It's, if it can go wrong, it will go wrong, so don't let it go wrong.
And don't make me up. Don't make the poor person in the booth the a-hole on that one. It's like, they have the script. Come on. Working
Also,
with a new stage manager.
one more thing I was just going to say.
Keep trying to.
I know, you're trying to push through. When you create your prompt book, when you generate this beautiful, fresh new script that you are going to print, that you are going to 3-hole punch, and that you are going to put in a binder and bring to your stage manager, do not hand them loose papers, please. Page numbers. Please make sure you have page numbers. You will really regret it if you don't.
Because that's a lot easier to jump forward to the big monologue on page 18 when you have a page 18. Otherwise, it's like, oh, it's after the long part, but then there's like a dance, and then the guy with the hair comes out, and then it's like, yeah. Yeah,
to reiterate, they don't know your script, and they don't have time to memorize your script.
So when working with the venue manager, what's the first and most foremost thing you can think of?
I'm naturally a nice person, but it seems to me like being nice would be a really good way to start off your tech.
It would be nice.
Yeah.
If you are on good terms with a person who has not had much sleep and has dealt with personalities all day that are flying in and having high stress moments, mostly people who did not come to this thoroughly researched, rehearsed, meticulously planned, and entertaining presentation. They are coming in with loose stuff, they don't have all their things, they're just sort of frazzled, maybe they're perhaps offensive in many different ways, both smelling and appearing. And that's what your stage manager has just suffered through for hours until your bright and smiling face shows up with a nice little bottle of water.
It's important to remember that these venue stage managers are hired for your convenience, but they do not work for you. If anything, they work with you. And I think that if you treat them as a collaborator rather than an employee, you're going to get off on the right track.
And you're going to meet really cool people too, because people talk. You might not know this, but Fringe is a small community of several thousand people. But
it's small.
And a stage manager is naturally connected to all of the shows that they're working on, and at the bar, they are then connected to a stage manager who's connected to all of their shows they're working on. if the stage manager really likes their bright and smiling, happy-faced person who comes in with their bottle of water and is generally nice, they're going to tell every other stage manager that they're working with the coolest person in Fringe, and we do have that competition sometimes.
Yeah.
Unofficially, but you want to make sure everybody appreciates you, because then you sell tickets, and then everybody appreciates that too.
This is not an official thing by any means, but from an anecdotal standpoint, often if a stage manager really likes the people they're working with, and if the quality of your piece is good, you have to have both, they will tell other people around about it. They'll tell other stage managers, because often stage managers only get to see 3 or 4 shows the entire festival, and so they really want to make sure they see something good. And so by showing up and really being wonderful to work with, you can actually even increase your own ticket sales.
It's happened.
Yes, one question, but then no more questions till the end.
Really? Oh, I'm not going to be here at the end, so is it, can I still ask it? Okay. So for my tech, I know that I do have to print out the description through the clearing binder. I was told that already, I know that. And I'm building my Q lab with a different person, not who my stage manager is. Do I still, though, need to have that separate, forget already what it's called? Like, in other words, I have the thing that I'm building with the person who's building the Q lab.
Yes.
But then do I need the separate
Yes,
thing?
for lighting, because that's how you're going to navigate what the different lighting looks are. If you just have it in the script, that's good.
Sorry.
That's at least prepared.
Or is your question, do you need a cue sheet for sound if your Q lab is already built? Is that your question?
No. You were talking about 2 completely
A
different.
cue sheet and a prompt book?
Prompt book.
Yes.
Do I still need the prompt book?
Absolutely.
That's your script with all the cues in it.
So it's not enough to just show up on tech with my Q lab built, all that good.
How are they going to know when the cues in the Q lab need to happen in your play? They need to have a script that actually says, on this line, play this sound.
I do have that on my script, but it's not like how you show.
It does not have to be exactly like this.
Yeah, a lot of people have different ways of formatting. They have like the little arrow flags so that that sticks out of the side of the script. So when you're looking at it, you know all of the yellow little arrow flags are scene 1, all of the little red, or all of the yellow ones are sound, all of the red ones are lights. Some people draw a line across to the cue line, and then all on the margin it says, here is what the cue is, and so forth. If you want to format it that way, that's chill. But as long as it is clear and precise, you can do what you like.
So then, so the prompt book is what you have here. You have a copy of it online.
A prompt book is merely a printed copy of the full script that has notations when light, sound, and any other cues need to happen. So all it is printed script that says lights here, sounds here.
I'm sorry, I'm going to piggyback her. I'm similar. So I have a prompt book. I have Q Lab because I did it at the New York Theater Winterfest. So I asked them to just send that to me.
Yeah, that's great.
Do I need a cue sheet is first question. Should I have a cue sheet as well? I got the prompt book and I do have Q Lab.
Same answer to the same question. Have a cue
Cues. Okay.
sheet.
And then the third question is, it was obviously done on Mac, but it was dropped in either WeTransfer or Dropbox. I forgot how I got the file. I have a non-Mac.
I would recommend that you find a friend with a Mac, open it up and test it ahead of time.
Okay, cool.
Because if for any reason the Q Lab bundle does not work, you don't
Gotcha.
want to waste time in your
Yes.
architecture.
Thank you.
Yes.
At the complex, we were told to come with a blank script with no notes in it for the.
If that is what they asked for, then
Should we do both, just to have it back up?
You'll want to know where all your stuff is. So for your reference, you'll want one. If they prefer to do their own notation, then I'm glad that they're communicating that.
Yeah, I'm one of the stage managers at the complex, and yeah, I request from people to bring a plain script, but a cue sheet is very, very handy.
Okay.
Yeah, it's easy for some, it depends, it's stage manager's preference, it's whatever they have to work with.
So then, we'll add this into our document for next year, but
Yeah.
why don't
Ask
you
your stage
reach out to your stage manager and ask them if they would prefer a clean or pre-filled prompt book.
And I'm glad this came up because, once again, when we started doing this, most of this language was based on, and even the part we're about to do, in actually doing the cues, is based on hiring someone that you didn't have at a venue. Venues used to just be like, here's the space, bye, sell lots of tickets. But now everyone's hired stage managers, and it's like scheduled and codified, and everyone's been upping their game for the last 7 years.
Yeah.
I mean, we would, yeah. Anyway,
All right,
Lights.
so, lights. How to read a rep plot. In order to have a wonderful lighting design for your show, even in a very simple venue, you need to first understand what you have to work with. Now, if you are not a world famous lighting designer, then wonderful, more work for me. But you don't need to actually understand exactly how the units work. You don't need to understand all of the lighting nomenclature. You don't need to be able to read a full drafting and understand all of it. You need to understand the direction of the light, the color of the light. That's about it. So you need to know if you have front lights. Do you have warm and cool front lights, or do you just have one source of front light? Do you have one wash that covers the entire stage, or is it broken into areas? Can you do separate lighting for right, center, left? These are questions that you can ask your venue. You can ask them to describe to you, what lighting am I going to have? And they might say, all right, you have 2 colors of front light, you're going to have a red top light and a blue top light, you're going to have an LED backlight. LEDs can do any color, poorly, but that's another one.
why would you have like warm and cold light though? Like, what's the difference?
Warm lights are more amber, orangey, and cold lights are more of a blue tint. And the emotional significance of the color of your light can have a very important effect on the way that you tell your story. And so warm lights tend to have in the word, it's a warmer, more inviting feel to them, whereas cool lights and cool front lights and cool top lights or side lights will have a sadder tone often. They can be a little more isolating, they can feel frostier, or quieter and calmer as well. There was a study where they gave people placebo pills in different colors and said it was a sleeping pill to see which worked best. And blue pills work best because blue is, for whatever neurological reason, blue is considered the most calming color. There was one country where the blue pill did not actually work as a sleeping pill, and it was Italy. And scientists had no idea why the Italians weren't falling asleep from this blue placebo pill. And it turns out that the Italian football team wears blue uniforms. And so they postulate that people were associating the color blue with the sport, and that's why they had a different association with the color. Now, if we're going to get really into advanced design 103, warm and cool lights don't always have those definitions, and you can really tell a story with any number of different color palettes. But it's a good general rule of thumb to think in terms of warms versus cool, front versus back, side lights if you have them.
Specials?
Specials, certainly if your venue has a special, that would be a tighter area of light, maybe a little spot, or for example, in a theater like this, you might have a light just on the stairs that would be a special because it's for a special purpose, is why it's called that.
If you're only a one-person show, it's good to think of things in that way, because you might not want to move a lot, but you might want to have an emotional moment that occurs in this particular area of the stage, typically in the middle, in the front. I mean, if it's our chair again, and you walk in, and the first thing you see is a light on this chair, that's a very different communication than a chair in a full lit stage. It sets you up and it primes it nicely. And then your first thing can be going out and sitting in the chair, and you'll win an Obie. That is not a guarantee, but
Yeah.
you'll win an Obie.
Results may vary.
Curtain speech.
Curtain speech, yeah. So one thing that I always like to point out in this workshop, when you are thinking about your cues, you obviously have all the cues in your play that help tell the story, but you should also think about the technical needs that frame either end of your performance. And so what that means is that you're going to have cue 1, which is your pre-show. This is your walk-in look. So don't forget what are the lights going to look like when the audience walks in. This is before the show is started. You're going to need another light cue that's going to take down the house lights for the show to start. If you're going to give a pre-show speech, which most shows do, and I think for Hollywood Fringe it's a good idea to stand up and give a live pre-show speech before your thing, you're going to need a special light cue that's maybe a spot on you for that with the house out. You're going to need a separate light cue that goes to full black before the show starts. If you choose to do that, you don't have to. You can go straight into lights up. But think about the lighting moments that happen before the play itself actually starts. And then likewise, at the end of the play, think about your final blackout. You're going to need lights for a curtain call, because most shows do curtain calls. You're also going to need another light cue for your walk out or your post-show look. So after the curtain call, which is usually a big, bright, full stage look for your actors, actors walk off stage, you can take the lights down to next glow, bring up the house lights. It's not the most exciting thing, but these are all cues that you should just keep in mind.
Especially for one-person shows too. I mean, some people choose not to do a curtain call and accept their bow after something that's very emotionally taxing or vulnerable, but it's kind of also nice to give people, let them off the hook like that, walk out and be like, thank you, like, I just said some really rough stuff and you really helped me for it, thank you.
So in terms of getting a nice design, if you are not a design-minded person, I would encourage you to lean on your venue stage manager if they are going to be programming the lights for you. And I think that it is entirely appropriate to give them creative liberty and say, I don't speak lights, but I know that this scene is a really sad and depressing scene, and they've just come home from a funeral, and I just want it to feel kind of sad and lachrymose, and let them interpret that as they will. I will say, if you are not a lighting-minded person, you are not allowed to get too specific with your needs. If you cannot clearly articulate what you want something to look like, you're not allowed to be frustrated if it doesn't look like that. And so, if you're going to work with your programmer in such a way, I know it sounds kind of glib and flippant, but legitimately, be prepared to trust their creative judgment. And even if it's not exactly what you had in your mind, understand that these people are good at what they do, allow it and move forward.
And they have a vested interest in you having the best show you can have,
Yeah, they want
based on what
that.
they can give you. Yeah.
If you are a lighting-minded person, then it is also your prerogative to come and know exactly what you want. If you go in there and you say, all right, this is a 5-second cue, I need my blues up at 50%, I need my warms up at 30%, they're going to be thrilled to do that for you because they don't have to think about it, they program it for you. So you can approach this from any angle. But you know, if you need lighting help, feel free to ask for lighting help, but allow them to do their art.
I did a show that used no conventional theater fixtures. We didn't use the plot at all. It was all lit with lanterns that actors had, flashlights, and then later LEDs that had battery-powered packs on them that the actors would turn on and off. Like, there are out-of-the-box ways to do stuff.
Yeah, I make an entire career out of not using theater lights. It's my métier. Oh, sound, great. All right, I'm gonna check Facebook for a while.
Sure.
Yeah.
Lights, great, yeah. So when you say designing lights, my venue says they only do a certain amount.
Which is your
we'll only
venue?
program a certain amount of lights, but then if you have more than that, get a designer.
Mm-hmm.
So the
Okay.
designer is, in my case, my director who knows how to do what you just said.
Mhm.
Is that the design? So when we go in, we're not going to consider,
So what they're saying, so which venue is this?
it's the lounge.
Mm-hmm.
So the lounge is
Saying
saying,
that no more than
that-
50 or something like that.
so they're saying that if you want more than 50 cues, you have to have your own programmer?
I think they're saying that, yeah.
Okay.
That makes sense because a lot of the time that's one of those things where the cues are in blocks of 50, and the reason you have less than 50 or 50 or less than 50 is because the board only goes up to 999? Or is it 9,999?
It's 1,000. I learned that the hard way when I was doing year in town. I forgot about it. I got to Q 995 and forgot that I had a ways to go, so I had to do 995.1 all the way to the end.
So what does it mean?
It sounds to me.
Programmer?
It sounds to me like actually what they're saying is that if you need that many cues programmed, you need to bring in someone else to do it, so that the stage manager doesn't have to program that many cues.
Yeah, that seems about right.
I would email them and ask for clarification on that.
Yeah.
Certainly.
If you need more than 50 cues, I mean, how long is your show?
It's 75 minutes, but we have more than 50 cues.
That's
Like,
chill. Believe you're talking to two dudes who do 90-minute shows with at least 1,000 cues. So, like, We're
It's
extra.
completely doable, but you should make sure that your director, if he's the programmer, that he knows how to program and express. Make sure that you know exactly what you want each cue to look like. I could knock out 100 cues. I could program 100 cues in about 30 minutes. It's very doable, but you gotta be real confident you can do that, because if not, you could get into a lot of trouble and end up wasting a lot of time.
Yeah, you don't want to get halfway through the show and then your tech time is out, because then you're.
If you go in knowing exactly what you want, and she
Yeah.
knows exactly what you want,
Mhm.
it's doable best.
And there's a lot of people who are multi-hyphenates, like directors that know how to do sound design, or musicians that know how to program lighting, or whatever. And so that's definitely a way to go.
Now,
But
there's one other crazy solution, which is you can contact them and ask them if you can rent a couple extra hours of space, maybe starting at midnight when, or after their last client on a certain day, and go in and just program.
Mhm.
And say, hey, if we gave you whatever the hourly rate is, $50, could we come in from 12 to 1 and just program all the cues first, so that when you come into tech, all your things are in the board.
that's, if you have an ambitious show like that and you have over, I'd say 30 cues, like you really want to go crazy with it, or you have extra stuff that needs a further accommodation that you're working with your venue on, that's something you can totally try for.
A thing I did 4 or 5 years ago, I was doing a show at the New York Fringe Festival, and they had the same light board that they have at the lounge. And so what I did was I actually found a theater here in Los Angeles. I went to the Lyric on La Brea, and they had the same board, and I put in a floppy disk, and I programmed the show blind. So I couldn't actually see what it looked like, but I created all the cues with best estimation in my head of, all right, so I'm going to have these around 50%, and I programmed the entire show so that when I got to the other space, all I had to do was plug in my disk, load the show file. No, because they stack cues. You can't do that here. Never mind, ignore that. It's a great idea, but it won't work in your venue. I'm sorry.
I think the Nomad ones might be.
Well, that's different. Nomad is very different.
Like Sacred Fools has the Nomads, I think.
Yeah.
And
If
check with your
If
venue.
your venue has a Nomad, then you should definitely consider programming ahead of time.
Mhm. Now, speaking of programming ahead of time, sound. I mentioned QLab. Does anybody need clarification on what QLab is?
Yes.
Dope. It's Figure 53 is a company that makes QLab as well as GoButton, their iPad version, and a couple of other cool programs that I'm guessing most of us have no interest in. But QLab is really great. That's we'll open it up and we can look at it.
Yeah, show some QLab.
Now-
QLab is also free.
That's right.
Yes, for 2 channels of audio and 1 channel of video, it's completely free. One thing to keep in mind is we are currently in the middle of a war between QLab 3 and QLab 4. Not everybody is up to QLab 4 yet, so whatever you program in, make sure you know what your venue has, whether it's 3 or 4. This is 3, and this is 4, and it's grumpy because I'm doing OSC stuff, it's interesting. And I didn't open it. Clearly I don't use 4 very often. But
QLab 4 also has the capacity to run lights.
yeah, and some venues
and-
are doing that, but
I was going to do a bit.
oh, sorry.
QLab 4 also has the capacity to run lights. And if you're wondering, should I run my lights off of QLab 4? No. Continue.
So yeah, it's kind of hard to tell the difference, so be sure you check if you're going to program in advance. If you're hedging your bets, program in 3, because 4 can open files that were programmed in 3, but 3 can only open files that were programmed in 3, not 4. That was a lot of numbers and very confusingly stated. Is anybody with me on this?
Yeah, redo that, please.
QLab 3, if I do all of my work in that, then wherever I go, they should be able to open it. If I do all my work in QLab 4, I can only do shows in QLab 4. If I walk into the venue and I'm like, here's my QLab, they're like, we're on 3. And you're like, oh, that's not this. Okay, darn. And it's just an email to your tech director or your stage manager.
Quick tiny question.
Mm.
If say I download the QLab 3 and then I do a free programming of my stuff, can I put it on a flash drive, give it to my person, and then they can just upload it into
Here is what you will do.
Okay.
File, bundle, workspace. God, that's so easy to see, isn't it? It's so big and everyone can see it.
Just stay till we get to the part of our presentation about how good projectors are. Oh, nicely done.
Okay, and what does that do?
It bundles the workspace.
It creates one file folder that contains your show file and all of the audio assets, and then you can drop that one folder into a zip drive.
Or you can zip it and email it. It's not that big. Or you can zip it and put it on a Dropbox or a Google Drive or a You Send It or a whatever. I was gonna keep going, and then all I had was GoFundMe and Venmo, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure you can't do that. But
Smoke signals.
yeah,
Not on a flash drive. It won't fit on.
flash drive is probably the best way to do it because then you have a backup of the show, and if something happens to the venue's computer because things happen and it's a bummer, you have a version, and that's actually going to be something we tell you to do right along with that because then you can plug it into another computer if you need it, or you can have a computer with it on it. Because that has happened to us too.
Every show I have running in Los Angeles right now is on this flash drive.
Wow.
I keep a flash drive on my person at all times.
You never want to get that call like an hour before curtain where it's like, the computer exploded. What are we gonna do? I've had that call 15 times.
Yeah.
Literally.
Also
Yeah.
cloud. Thumb drive and cloud. Have this information everywhere. Just
Yeah.
back it up onto 20 different places.
You get 6 gigs on Dropbox for free? Is that still what
I
it
don't know,
is?
I pay for it. But
I do Google Drive. For $2 a month, it's 100 gigs. And I would love to see any one of you do a show that is 100 gigs and need to buy more space from Google Drive or from Dropbox to keep all that stuff. I'd love to see it. It'd be amazing. 3D video and 360-degree projections. An entire human like mapped inside a computer.
I want to apologize for Matt leaving that door open and ruining our mise en scène.
Yeah, it was all of it flowing this way. It's like all the mystery is over there.
All right,
Back to my
Corwin.
anchor. Now, I'm
I was
so
about to say, hey,
sorry.
Corwin, what if someone's working on Windows?
Guess what, buddy? No, that's the only downside. Now, we did have a link inside here to Multiplay. It is a Lilo Dallas production. No Fifth Element fans. That was so much kinder. You are the sweetest. Thank you. That was amazing. This is a Windows-based software, Multiplay. It's similar to SFX. Why would anyone know what that is? I'm sorry. It was the playback software that we used to use before QLab came along, and this is free. It is no longer being developed. So, your mileage may vary. I have not used it on a Windows 10 machine yet. I've used it on I have, Draftenstein. It worked fine.
Oh yeah?
But you're gonna need to kind of be in the woods on it. It still works pretty well, and you can do pretty robust queuing with it. You will have to use that computer for your tech, so pre-programming with that isn't kind of the best deal. You might just want to program in the space with whatever they have.
If you do not have access
We'll get
to
to you.
QLab, if you do not have a Macintosh computer, if you do not feel comfortable programming the show file ahead of time, that's okay. What you should do is arrange all of your sound files in a very organized way. And so what I would do would be to pre-label them with the number and name of the queue. So you would have all your MP3s, put them in a folder, and relabel the MP3 as 1-bird noises.
Version 1.
0 1.
Oh yeah, 0.
Yeah.
There it is, that's smart. And so then what you can do when you get to your venue is you can hand them a thumb drive. Don't use a CD, just don't use a CD, just don't. You'll
I have something for that. I'm working on my second karaoke practice disc in my car right now, and I get to the end, and it's really upsetting. I cannot listen to Miley Cyrus Wrecking Ball, which means I cannot practice it, and we're all worth our Miley Cyrus at her best or her worst. So don't do CDs anymore, they're silly.
Yeah. So you're going to hand your thumb drive. It's going to have the tracks. You're going to hand your programmer your sound cue sheet, and the cue sheet is going to have the title, the label of each track, as well as what needs to happen to it. So for example, if you need it to fade out on a 5-second, it will say that. And if you give them that information, they can throw this into the computer. It'll take about a minute to import, and they can program it for you.
Yeah, they can do it there. You can have it all run off of iTunes in rehearsal and set things up the way that you want and have your friend push the button, or even you while you're running it. I usually make a QLab for a one-person show so that they can drill through it at home and keep the pattern, or keep the timing and stuff, so they can really drill that too. And in fact, who's teching their show tomorrow and has a one-person show? Whew, sweet, okay, cool. So you all have time, basically, to go through this, explore it, and maybe rehearse a little bit with the constituent elements. You had one.
Yes, I went through a little bit of hell because I have a PC and then this venue is saying she will only do QLab or ShowQ systems.
Oh, ShowQ Systems is in here too.
Nobody seems to know ShowQ systems. Everybody I've asked has no idea what the hell that is.
I have that in here, but I don't really have. I know 3 designers out here that use it because they have custom PC rigs and they built sort of scalable sound cards so they could do like 50 speakers if they want, and they can just sort of modular do that. And I think ShowQ Systems goes up to like 20 or 30 outputs, and then after that you can have several computers, and it's cheaper.
But question, she will program for you, correct?
Well, I've solved my problem because I borrowed a Mac and I have him over here doing my stuff. So I'm like, I have it solved, but I mean, I'm not sure if anybody else is having that problem because I know I was kind of going through,
I think that if you're having trouble accessing a certain type of software, that you should reach out to your venue and ask them, if I bring all of my sound files as MP3s on a thumb drive, can you program for me? And I'd be very surprised if anybody would say no.
Yeah, if that does happen, you should contact.
If anything is scary or daunting about any element of your tech, talk to your venue. Say, I'm trying to do this. Can you help me do this? What do you need for me to help me do this? And they will talk you through it. And if it is too ambitious, they will let you know, but they will probably also help you figure out a way to do what you're trying to do that is achievable. The venue managers are your friends. The stage managers are your friends. Everyone in Hollywood Fringe is here to take care of you. Use those resources.
There was something over. No? Cool. Moving on. ShowQ Systems is in here, and that is a Windows-based program. You can use it. I'd be surprised if a venue has it set up as their system. It's usually QLab or a little plug to plug in your phone or whatever. There are 2 programs I know of that I mentioned here for phones. GoButton, which is by the QLab people, Figure 53, for the iOS sort of environment. And then Live Cues for Android, for that sort of thing. If you're still using Palm, I'd like to welcome you to 2018. I'm sure the thawing process was very traumatic. Don't read the news. Things are a little bit crazy, and you're still waking up and getting used to it. Yes. What adapters do I need? So if you're going to be having your phone to plug in to run your show, you're going to want to make sure you have the right adapter. There are 2 basic ones that you can use that you might need. One of them is a stereo 1/8 inch or headphone jack to quarter inch adapter. And then the other one, and you're seeing I'm just clicking these links inside the PDF and it goes to the thing, which is kind of nice.
Amazing.
1/8 inch to RCA. Basically, check with your venue manager, your stage manager, like, what do I need to plug in? They should know. And then have one with you, because you never know, especially if you have an iPhone that doesn't use either of these, and you need that little dongle to go from the Lightning to 1/8 inch, especially if you're doing cabaret, because this doesn't pop up very often, but people go to whoever is running the cabaret, some poor soul, usually me, and they're like, here is my phone. And I'm like, that is an iPhone. And they're like, yes, can you plug it in? And I'm like, no. And then they get bummed out at me because I don't have the fancy thing that you need to do it. So make sure you have what you need to plug in. And for the iPhone users, that little dongle, you can get one online. I did not put this in here because I believe in not enabling bad behavior, but if you're gonna keep doing the iPhone thing and handing it to people, there's a Thunderbolt to Thunderbolt and 1/8 inch jack thing that you can get online. go with God, do that. Otherwise, 1/8 inch headphone jack, that's gonna solve most of your problems. And if you just have one, on the off chance that somebody broke it before you came in, you'll be able to plug it in and you'll be fine. That took a long time. Thank you. There's also a list in here of pre-show, post-show music, like consider that. Do you have music while people walk in? I'm sure you guys were incredibly well primed for a high energy, incredibly well rehearsed and well prepared and extremely well funded presentation with that raucous pre-show music as you were walking in. We didn't do that.
Also, from a storytelling standpoint, the environment that people walk into, when people walk into your theater, you're already telling the story to them before the show starts. And so, whether it be a soundscape, gentle waves lapping across the beach, or you have a type of music that feels tonally relevant to the piece, it's a nice little tool to get people into the world of your piece before you start.
And there's some sources here for sound files. Everything from free to very specific libraries where you can pay for stuff, and then some music here too. And if you need to edit them at home and you want to like go super extra with it, there's a program called Audacity, as in it's audacious that it's so free and so easy to use. It is for everything. Even if is anyone running Linux? That's exactly what I was hoping. Yeah. Thank you. It works on Linux, yeah. I think there's even like a Unix and a BOS built. Audacity. And it's on SourceForge. There is a link to that in here as well. Yes.
This is an amazing document and an amazing resource, and I want to thank you. So I'm here and I'm trying to find where that PDF is. Where
is the? There, that bit.ly
is
link.
this right here?
Yeah.
Perfect.
This is
Thank you so
bit.ly.
much.
So we have a whole big chunk on video, and I think we're going to skip it today. We're going to skip it for 2 reasons.
Yep.
One is that if your show requires intensive video, and you don't know how to make video happen, this workshop isn't going to be enough to save your ass.
Yeah, we're just gonna give you the rope to hang yourself.
And 2 is that we both strongly advise you to consider if video is necessary for your piece. I speak more as a designer and a storyteller. Video pisses me off. I find it to often be a lazy and easy design choice in storytelling. And so if you're going to give yourself a giant headache about programming video files and buying all the right adapters and getting their projector to work, and you have 15 minutes to load in, and you're doing this all so that you can project some plaid pattern on your back wall that you feel really tells a story, that is very unimpressive to me. And as a Fringe goer, I say skip it. So think about, like, why am I using video? Am I using video because everyone uses video? Because it's very hip, it's very trendy? If so, or do you really need it? If you're doing a piece that requires video, if you have a character on a screen and you're having a conversation with them, or if you're doing a one-person show and you're showing family photos, or if it's part of the narrative, by all means, that's a very appropriate form of storytelling. But don't shoehorn video into your thing just because everyone's doing it. It's not going to be as cool as you think. And if you think it's going to look like that show you saw that had video that was freaking amazing, it's because they paid Corwin $3,000 to do it. So that's our thing on video. We're going to jump forward to the actual tech day.
There is more information about PowerPoint, QLab. It does video too and so forth in the document, but I'm not going to stumble on that speech.
So, it's my day of tech.
Yes.
I'm very excited.
Yes.
I have prepared everything immaculately.
It is incredibly prepared. How'd y'all get here today? Who lifted? Or Ubered?
So who drove? Who parked? How fun was that?
Bad.
All right, so imagine this times 30 venues, times literally thousands of audience members.
It's
All right?
gonna suck a little bit.
Your tech is going to end when it ends, and if you're not done, they don't care if there's someone coming in after you. Do parking recon ahead of time. Scope out the area. Know where the street cleaning areas are. If you are doing it on a Monday between 10 to 1 and half the streets don't have parking, prepare for that. Figure out where you're going to send people.
I think it's Mondays and Tuesdays are the worst in Hollywood.
You can look it up online. There's a grid where it shows you all the street parking.
But don't get a ticket, please.
It's gonna ruin your day.
It's not worth it to take a lift in for tech, if you have a small enough number of props, or if you have several people that are coming, have them bring pieces of things. There's no guarantee you're gonna get to park next to your venue.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Sacred Fools experimented with having a loading zone outside one of their theaters, but that's 4 spaces. How is that gonna work? Like, just know you're probably gonna have a schlep.
All right.
Or you're gonna need to park and do flashers and have someone there to help you unload. Like,
So who are my one-person shows? All right, you guys aren't gonna have to worry about this. Everyone else, just remember your actors are actors, and therefore, by definition, they're garbage people. So, we're all actors. I'm an actor. We're all actors, but actors are garbage people. They need to be spoon-fed. Tell your company to arrive early. Let them know. Make sure they understand the parameters of this tech, because they might be used to more leisurely. Which is bullshit, because there's not a single theater in this city where you should walk into a tech late. But nonetheless, they might think that it's kind of okay to do that. Tell them, parking's gonna be a nightmare. We have exactly 3 hours, 4 hours, whatever it is to do our thing. I need everyone gathered on the street in front of the building 15 minutes before tech. We're gonna do a roll call. Be very strict with this.
what's a good reason for having them be there early, do you think?
What is a good reason for I don't know where you're going with this.
If you have more than one person, and again, sorry, one person show, so you can just check out for a moment, but it's great to give everyone a job,
Right.
because if you have a set, if you're not just completely bare stage with rehearsal cubes and humorous stickers that I didn't think about before I brought my laptop out, then you don't have to worry about it. But if you have stuff, if you have this damn chair that I keep doing my bit with,
Yeah, a bunch of costumes, a bunch of random props.
this is my job. I bring the chair.
Yeah.
Brandon brings himself, but you know.
And so whereas actors are garbage people and you can't count on them for anything, I would also encourage you to trust them and count on them because they're your collaborators. And what I mean by that is, if you are the director or the producer or the star or the writer or whatever of your Hollywood Fringe show, it is very easy, and I know this from experience. I have been doing my own productions in Fringe since year 0, since 2010. It is very easy to put everything on yourself. And that is very dangerous, and it's going to lead to a very bad day. So, delegate. Put someone in charge of prop maintenance. Put someone in charge of costume maintenance. Make sure that you have very clear assignments. You go over all of this ahead of time, maybe at your final rehearsal before your tech.
Purchasing consumables before
Yeah.
the day that they're
Yeah, if you need to
used.
drink grape juice or like fake alcohol on stage, or you eat chips or something, like it's okay to tell someone it's your job to go and buy these things. And so make those lists. Make sure that everyone, there shouldn't be a single person in the room during your tech who doesn't have a job. And if you have a prissy actor who thinks there's just acting, they don't understand what Fringe Festival is. It's just not the way it works. Every single person has to pitch in and do a job in order to make a Fringe show work properly.
Even if they're just going to the parties and meeting people with a stack of business cards, like that's a thing too. That's a commitment that not everyone can make all the time, but the more you do it, the better your ticket sales and involvement is.
So, even though every Fringe tech starts exactly on time and ends exactly on time, Fringe techs usually don't start exactly on time and end exactly on time. Which means that when you arrive at your theater and your entire company is standing there 15 minutes early and you've tallied and they're all wonderful, the people in the space might be running a little late. And that's shitty of them. But you're going to be the better person, and you're going to wait until the show before you has completely loaded out before you start loading in.
We're back to be nice.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're going to provide them that courtesy. It is okay if you're standing out there at 10 a.m. and your tech starts at 10 a.m. and you can see that they're still in there on stage. It's okay to sneak in, find a stage manager, say, hey, we're supposed to start at 10, can you wrap it up? You know, you don't have to be a pushover. But if you just start marching in with all of your stuff and they're still on stage, then they gotta march off. It's gonna get very convoluted. It's gonna end up costing you both more time.
And also, it happens sometimes. Maybe there was a flat tire on the way in, the stage manager didn't get there on time. Like, they program in buffers between shows so that there's a little bit of flexibility, and you can be drilling how you get scenery into the staging area with your cast if there's extra time. Like, don't waste a lag. You can be checking that everyone's jobs are correct, going over what the plan is going to be. Like, if you're stuck waiting for the people in front of you, use that time. And also, maybe they had a bad tech, but they're really cool people, and you could be friends with them, and you can have your cast go to their show and their cast go to your show, and then it winds up that both of you win awards because everyone talks about how this great vibe is spreading from this community of brotherly shows that had a bad day. Like, don't throw away a bad day either. Like, we're all gonna have ridiculous things happen to us
And
in
you know
Fringe.
what else sucks? If the show before you ends late and you start your tech late, that does not mean you're entitled to end your tech late. That is at the stage manager's discretion. And in my opinion, if it's 10 minutes, the stage manager might say, like, yes, you deserve to have 10 minutes, but don't assume it. Don't assume anything for yourself.
Yeah, they put in buffers to try and mitigate that, but some days just don't go well.
Okay.
So,
Hey, Corwin,
hey Brandon.
I know that it's not traditional Tuesday night, but are you up for a little bit of roleplay?
Absolutely.
It's a sex joke. Be a stage manager running a venue.
Okay.
All right, I'm loading in. It's the top of my hour for tech.
Yes.
Corwin is the stage manager. You ready? You guys ready? You're gonna see why I quit acting. Hey, Corwin. Corwin, don't.
I didn't know. I was like really deep into it.
Corwin, hey,
Yeah, how's it
hey,
going?
I'm Brandon.
Cool. I'm Corwin. I'm your stage manager.
Hey, awesome to meet you. I'm the director of this piece, and I'm gonna be working with you on the lighting and stuff. I'm gonna have my people. Is it cool if they start loading in our scenery?
Yeah, that should be fun.
Fantastic. I'm gonna be standing right here. Let me know as soon as you're ready for you, and then I'll start working. I'll just be over there coordinating stuff. Let me know when you're ready.
Cool.
Okay?
That never happens.
Yeah.
That guy was so together.
I
I think I actually like my job.
Right? It's possible the stage manager might need 2 or 3 minute break.
I'm so
They
glad I
might
went
really
to
need to
grad
pee,
school.
they might need to get some
I'm
water.
still in it. I'm sorry.
I know, so they might just need a second to get their thoughts together if they just worked with a bunch of painless garbage people. And so it's very courteous to just check in with them, work on their schedule. A really strong first impression helps. Also, by introducing myself, I think it's important that you let your stage manager know the contact person. Because if there's a lot of people in the room, they're not going to know whose job is what, and they're going to need to know if they have a question, who should they come to. And so he now knows if he has a question about any technical element, come to me. Communication-wise, it's always easier to have one point of contact for your production.
And let's wake up the one-person show people in case they didn't realize they should have been paying attention. How many of you have do not have a director or outside person helping you with this?
My director's going out of town, and so I'll be basically by myself with my boyfriend. He'll be my co-director.
Great.
Cool. As long as you guys discuss what you're looking for and establish expectations, you can change hands like that all the time. Like that people, I mean, Wade was a great example. He was like, he was his own promotional machine. And like, he was
Legendary.
at everything, handshaking, meeting everybody. That dude met 2,000 people over the course of the festival and single-handedly drove his ticket sales. I mean, if you have a cast, it helps because they can take some of the burden off, or you can do like performances and stuff and like just keep the machine rolling. But if it's just you probably want to get somebody to help
So
you.
I'm glad you have your boyfriend.
Yes.
Do you have anyone with you during your tech, or are you all solo for your show?
No, because I've switched with another guy who's doing a one-person show, so we're helping each other.
Okay, great.
That's great. That's
The point
great.
is, this might be entirely new, but in case there's anyone watching this video sometime in December looking for tech advice, if you're doing your show solo, we advise you to have someone come in and help, even if it's just a friend or a significant other or a family member, someone just to come in and either stand on stage so you can see what the lights look like while you work with the person, or if it's someone who you know who works with theater, have them program all the lights while you do your thing. You don't want to do this alone, but you are, so we love you for it. All right, so I've introduced myself to my stage manager, Corwin. It's time for me to start programming my light piece. There should never be a moment during your tech when anyone is sitting twiddling their thumbs. That's just a waste of time. And so, while I am working on light cues and I've got my cue list, I know exactly what I want, and I'm saying, hey, could you do me a favor and build me this cue? It looks like this. Can you do that? At the same time, your actors can be backstage figuring out where they're going to place their costumes and props. They can be practicing loading in and out their scenic pieces. They can be rehearsing fight choreography on the stage. They can be, if you have an assistant director or maybe like an actor captain who does, they can be figuring out spacing. Oh, okay, This space is a little less wide than our rehearsal space, so let's kind of walk through our scenes and figure this out. Anything that you can do at the same time as you're programming is going to save you a lot of time, because the ultimate goal of your Fringe tech is to get a full run-through in, and you want to start as soon as possible.
This is ambitious. This is something that only
It
happens
is
with
not
a well-oiled
ambitious. It is
machine.
not something that only happens, well-oiled machine, yes. It is entirely achievable.
Yes.
If you prepare everything ahead of time, it is entirely feasible to go in, program your things, dive into a run.
We've done it with most of our shows that we've worked on.
I do it with all my shows.
That's why I said we.
It's bringing
The
down my
royal
average.
we. I had some that went south on me because there was several hundred video cues. Literally several hundred.
So there's one other little pro tip that I like to give from a lighting standpoint when you walk into your venue, which is to ask your stage manager to do a dimmer check. And what that is they're going to turn on every stage light individually and make sure that they are all functional. Stage lamps will sometimes burn out.
Especially in Fringe, because they're being used
Being
more than
used
they
for a
would
lot
be
of hours.
any other part of the year.
It is not a given that if a lamp goes out, anyone's going to catch it and anyone's going to fix it. And so if you have a really important scene in your show where you have this one beam of moonlight coming from there, and it's really sexy and intimidating, and it's just chiaroscuro up the wazoo, and that light's not out, you're going to get to this amazing award-winning moment in your play, and there's not going to be any light. So the more time, and this also applies, by the way, to your performances. When you load in for your performance, first thing, check all the lights. I'm not saying that you're 100% going to get a light fixed in the 15 minutes before your show, but you're going to have a much better chance of getting it fixed in the 15 minutes before your show than in the 2 minutes before your show. So, play those odds, give yourself the option. Backup disc. Yeah. Sorry guys, new jeans, and this is really difficult to reveal. Okay. There it is.
That's only every show you're working on now.
Rule of threes. All right. Yay! Keep this on me at all times. Find out what kind of disc your venue is using. I think most places are now on thumb drives. Some might be on floppy disks. If your venue uses floppy disks, you can get floppy disks off of Amazon. We have a link provided for you. They might say that they have a backup disk for you. That is wonderful. I can't see any reason why you wouldn't want to have an additional backup of your show.
I mean, unless you really like chaos,
Yeah.
making it up as you go along and having terrible things happen. There are some people who get off on that kind of thing.
Tell us about some sound prep, buddy.
It's the exact same thing except for the floppy disk part, because we actually still work in the future in sound. No? No burns? Okay, fine. Thumb drive, your whole show can usually fit on another thumb drive. Some people put lighting and sound on the same thing. I wouldn't, just because functionally they're usually different computers or different devices entirely, and you can be like, here's my lights, here's my sound, plug, and I'm doing my show. If you're like, here's my lights and sound, where do I start? Like, you can see there's kind of a problem there. So there's a link to a twofer on here somewhere. I think it's at the end. Yeah, this guy. And I know because I just did it yesterday. I mean, a week ago, because I was working on this for some time. This is $13 on Amazon. You could probably get cheaper, but it's like 32 gigs, 16 gigs. I would love to see anybody do a Fringe show that takes up 16 gigs.
Well, here's an interesting point, actually.
Love to see.
If your sound files, if you're using WAV files and sound files that are running like 100 megs per sound file, QLab might not be so happy with that. So it actually, am I correct that it's in your best interest to compress the sound files to a certain size if you want them to run smoothly?
Funny story. Uncompressed audio is less processor intensive, particularly if you run it off of an SSD internal drive, because the bottleneck comes in the computer uncompressing the compressed audio to then. Now, this happens, computers usually are fast enough that that transfer happens so fast you don't notice it. In this new world of video on demand and streaming services and stuff like that, like they kind of figured out their way around it. If you're that cool that you're crashing QLab with just sound files, awesome. Have I done it? Yes. but I was using the effects, so it was a little, I was cheating. But yeah, generally speaking, uncompressed audio sounds better. It's just going to be bigger files. So most people do MP3s.
I said the wrong thing.
Well, most people do MP3s because you can email them.
Yeah.
If you're trying to send a 10-minute long song or recording, that's like 100 gigs, maybe even, no, that's like a gig. I forgot exactly how it works out, but it's going to be big, and you have to deal with that.
Okay. Schedule out your tech ahead of time. I typically recommend you break it into, what do I do?
First half hour.
Break it into half. So let's say, well, I used to have the reason I'm hesitating is because I used to have a standard formula, but tech hours are different lengths now. They used to all be the same amount of time. And so if you have a longer tech period scheduled, then you can kind of budget. But typically, I would spend a half hour programming, an hour to run the show, and then a half hour to do notes, and then you have an extra hour kind of wiggle room to practice stuff.
You don't want to do creative notes.
I don't want to do creative notes. My God, people, what are you doing making blocking changes during your tech? Oh, heavens no. Don't decide you don't like that costume during your tech. Be very careful that the only creative decisions you're making during tech are the ones that can't be made in any other room. Sound and lighting, you're going to have to make those choices in the theater. And with discretion, because you don't want to waste all your time on it, but it's an appropriate time to do it. Any change that could be made in an outside rehearsal hall, check yourself, wait, take a note, fix it later. Acting notes, definitely not. Your tech run, it's gonna be a lousy run. You don't expect a good run through. A bad tech Fringe run through means a great opening night.
I think maybe I made a terrible mistake, but let me ask you. Can I have more than one tech?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good, because I got another section of 2 hours, and I wanted to, because it's only me and it's only an hour show, I wanted to do tech, run the show, notes.
That's fantastic, yeah.
Is that okay?
That's
Okay.
dealer's choice.
Okay.
If you have only yourself, or you have children, a show with just children. I don't think those are happening now, but we had one a couple of years ago. It was all kids.
Okay.
You might need a bigger buffer zone of tech or another pass at it. You might even want to film it if you're doing B-cam or behind the scenes kind of footage for your Kickstarter payoff or something like that. I'm sure plenty of people have already talked to you about that at length in different versions of these things, but if you're getting B-roll for that kind of stuff, filming a tech is kind of cool. You can have someone walk around with the camera and like,
Look at all the cool stuff. It's like a projector.
If you can finagle extra time in your space to use for tech or for run-throughs or for anything you want, that's fantastic.
especially if you're a musical.
Yeah, you can't always count on it because these venues get very booked, but there are some venues that are less booked than others. So at your discretion, the more time you can get, the better. And then certainly you can be more leisurely. You can decide to spend more time programming or more time running or
Doing creative notes in the space, like we could have choreographed an entire number on the staircase if we'd have got in here an extra hour earlier.
I know. All right, Corwin, you ready for some more role play?
Oh God, yeah.
All right, he's early.
Oh, that was easy.
All right,
Just naturally early.
ready? Hey there, Corwin.
What the hell do you want?
I got you the Starbucks gift card just to say thank you for, I know how hard it is to do all this Fringe show, so it's my little thing of appreciation.
I'm so glad I did stage management.
Bribe your stage managers. Bribe them, bribe them, bribe them. Bring them a little $5 card to get a cup of coffee. It's a lovely gesture.
This is the funny haha thing that always we say, and then people wind up doing it and they realize it totally works.
Totally works. And you know what else works? Whiskey. Whiskey really works. Bring your venue manager a bottle of whiskey. I personally a single malt Scotch guy. What about you, Corwin?
Single malt Scotch, but
just in case you're enjoying this
I
workshop. But no, for real. I mean, yes, for real.
Figure out
buy
what it
whiskey
is
if you
they
see us
like.
at the festival. Bring gifts. Bring snacks for your stage manager. Bring something for your venue manager.
You can always ask, like, hey, what would you like? Would you like a bottle? Would you like
Ask
a
them. It
can
doesn't
of
have to be a
something?
surprise.
Yeah.
But it's a really lovely little gesture that goes a very long way.
It's like be nice, but 10 times better because now you're going the extra mile.
Yeah.
And extra miles get extra smiles.
So speaking of assigning tasks to everyone in your team for your tech, have one person be the clock keeper. Have them set a timer on their phone and have them keep you to it. And so while you're working your tech, have them say, all right, hey, just so you know, we have 15 minutes left before we got to start a run. Keep someone on that. You'll be very, very happy you did, because otherwise you're going to be loading in your set and realize you have 5 minutes left.
Attitude. Blast through these real quick. Bribe your stage manager. Have someone on clock. Oh, god damn it.
This one's yours.
Because I wasn't paying attention and I wasn't prepared. This is Brandon's favorite, but I will do it. Pee and or poo at home. You laugh. But think about the bathroom that is currently located on the other side of the set and how awkward it is if you have to relieve yourself during the proceedings.
If you're at the complex where you have 4 shows technically at the same time and you have one bathroom, you can't afford to
Oh, I thought it was 2.
Well, 2 bathrooms, but the point is you can't afford to lose time. This is a time management thing. If someone absolutely has a bladder emergency, you're not going to not let them, but this is something I would tell everyone, take care of yourself at home beforehand.
Yeah, even the Broadwater, the Sacred Fools complex, the Broadwater, I keep saying Sacred Fools because it's rebranded now, but my bad. They just redid their bathrooms. And even then, they are amazing.
They are.
But you can't rely on it because there are 4 things plus staff there and volunteers wandering by. And that's just more time you lose waiting. So we did the creative justice. Oh yeah, and we did this before, but it's really important. You will probably, especially your one-person show people, you will probably have a weird raft of emotions that will occur at random, sporadic times, usually when it is most necessary for you to make a decision. And you will have to grapple with that at the same time you're actually being a functional human and trying to do something amazing and challenging.
Prepare for the stress, prepare for the strain, but also prepare healthy solutions to it, and emphasis on the word healthy. I was talking to a friend of mine who does New York Fringe Festival every year, and he said to me, when you're just completely stressed by Fringe stuff, what do you do? And I said, I'll usually go for a quick hike, or I'll go out to the beach. And I said, what do you do? And he says, I drink. There's going to be plenty of drinking. There's going to be lots of opportunity for drinking, but I really recommend that you find healthy, emotionally and physically healthy outlets to deal with your stress during the tech period and also for the rest of the festival.
And not just weed.
Yeah, and so I legitimately do, I think a little bit of exercise is important. I try to go for a hike. In terms of tech snacks, it's a great idea to bring food to your tech, to have something for people to nibble on. Make sure that they know when to nibble on. If you're not allowed to have food in the house or on the stage, if it's only backstage, obey those rules. Tell people, like, don't bring food on stage while we're working. But I love, like dried fruit, apricots, nuts that have a little bit of protein. You can get popcorns and cookies and chips too. I am certainly not a food Nazi by any means, but typically I try to make sure that there's a healthy option as well as an indulgent option, because if you give your body the right amount of fuel, it really helps your brain. And during Fringe Tech, you're going to have a lot of processing happening very quickly.
Yeah, you'll burn through calories like you wouldn't believe. And then you get sad or stressed or angry. And one of the other things, just taking a break. We have said, don't waste any time, don't waste any time. It is possible for something to go absolutely bonkers and you will have to leave the room.
Yeah. If stepping outside for 5 minutes is what's going to allow you to do the rest of the day, do that.
I mean, sometimes things don't go the way that we want them to. Yeah.
I just wanted to formally say thank you. Excuse me.
Thank you.
Thank you for having such an amazing exit. And happy Fringe!
All right, guys. So
that is how you make an exit. Yes.
The next one, I want to do this one because it's my bugaboo.
By all means.
All right, be sober. I am so deadly serious
4
about
tech, 4 shows.
There are a lot of people in Los Angeles who think that a beer or a joint kind of opens them up and enables their process. If you are one of those people who thinks that a little bit of smoking or a little bit of drinking before you work makes you looser, makes you better at what you do, just know this. Everyone you're working with disagrees. It is not true. As I said, there is a lot of alcohol in this festival. It is fantastic. I rarely drink, and I drink the entire month of June. It's great. This is California. There is weed everywhere. You just don't need to do it while you're teching your show. And this is a very important rule for all of your actors, for anyone involved in your piece. You tell them 0 tolerance, be sober when you arrive. I mean, or don't. Like, I don't really. That's my advice.
People are gonna break that one anyway, but it's just, you lose time.
I think it's worth saying.
And you lose focus, and you lose clarity, and it might be fun, and it might actually be that you're doing a show where you don't have anything. Turn the lights on, you goof off like this, and you turn the lights off at the end, and it's great. Like,
we might be goofy and clutterbrained, but we're sober now.
horribly, blisteringly sober.
I have to go too. You guys are awesome. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much for everything.
Best of luck.
All right.
Thank you. See you soon. Bye.
So,
This is basically it. Clean up after yourself.
everything else. So basically after this, we have, on the last page of our document, we have an inventory list with links to buy things.
All of the things that we mentioned. Here's a resource for hiring designers and technicians if you feel like you need them. I know that there have already been some people beyond, what's up?
No.
Oh, yeah, fire him.
Yeah, yeah.
Except you can't do any more shows. You're doing like 15. What are you talking
I
about?
can do more.
Okay. If you're looking for, maybe you need a little costume help, or you need someone to design a specific makeup look for you, these are good places to put a little shout out. If you do choose to use these Facebook groups to look for people, you're going to get a much better response if you list how much you're paying. Even if it's a nominal fee, if you say, hey, I'm looking for this person, I really only need you for 2 hours, I only have $50. There might be someone young out of college who's really eager to get a credit, and they'll do it for $50. But if you don't list the amount of pay, then you're going to have, Broadway level union designers messaging you and then being upset because.
Actually, at the Technical Theater Artists of LA group, you have to post what you're going to pay
As
now.
of 2 weeks ago, and I love you for it.
We voted on that.
So here's what I think. We want to do a brief Q&A, but also we understand that it's been a thing. So why don't
And it is
anyone who wants to leave, why don't you guys leave now if you have to leave, and then anyone who wants to stay can stay, and that way we won't have like a trickle. So thank you very, very much for coming. We really hope this helps. If anyone has any additional questions, by all means access the document. And also you can find me and Corwin on the Hollywood Fringe site. You can contact us through the site, and we'd be very happy to continue the conversation and give you more advice if you need it.
Ellen's got one for you too. What's up?
We're going to be having a mixer after this at 3 clubs. If anyone wants to stick around and have a drink with me, I'll be there.
Right on.
And each other. And please make sure you're following our social media and sign up for all of our updates, because there's a lot of information that we can talk about this month. Make sure you're on it.
Cool. All right, who's got questions?
All right, Q&A.
Yeah.
So, my show is more on Bell,
Yep.
There you go.
and
That was awesome,
we
by the
have,
way.
we are running subtitles.
Yeah.
The show is English, and then we're running Korean subtitles. And we have a bleeding issue because we have the projector that's shooting in the background, and then the projector is taking up the entire back wall, and then we have the lighting. So, do you have any tips on like running a subtitle with different device than projector?
I've seen people do it with title cards and with a scroll that it's wound around one dowel, and then the people take it and pull it, and it scrolls that way. It sounds to me like you're doing a thing that absolutely needs a projector.
It's a 15-minute show, but
yeah.
I mean, I don't want the entire projector taking up the entire back. So
When you are doing a show with QLab, and I'm doing this quick and dirty because I did not prep this at all. But let's say clocks image. I'm really glad that this is being done live. Here's a clock image that I'm just gonna steal.
Do you want me to take another question while you prep that?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. Yes.
So hi everyone, my name is Camille, Goddess's Guide, a Dura for the women of the African diaspora.
Yes.
Yes, director, producer, writer of that. So real quick, we actually have one of the venues that does not have a venue stage manager, one of the few that do not.
Which one?
See.
The new collective, right?
Mm-hmm.
Next door does not have one, so we have our own stage manager, and I also have my lighting and sound designer here. They're gonna be the main tech team, and we have another person who's a board op coming into this space. So we have really great qualified people coming in, but we don't have someone as a point person. We've been just sort of like going and testing out things in preparation. But do you have any tips for the few people that might be at alternative spaces without someone there, or just maybe like a new collective that's not included in the package of everything?
Yeah, I mean, if you are at an alternative space, there are two directions you can go. You can either really play into that space's limited capacity and do something that works with the gear that they have, or you can really level up and bring in talent. If you have a lighting and sound designer in, then I think you're set. I think basically you just plan it ahead of time, make sure that you understand what is capable in the room before you get in there, and I mean, I think you're okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's lots of resources in the document for Big Cheap. I don't know that I listed Big Cheap, but the Hollywood Fringe website. The Hollywood Fringe Festival Facebook group, the official one, and then Technical Theater Artists of Los Angeles. And those two resources have people who are working in Fringe and around freelancing that you can contact. So if you need that, that's where you go to get those people.
Also bear in mind that spaces that don't have their own stage managers, there is a potential, I have to be very delicate about this, there's a potential for them to be less well maintained than others. And so I would advise anyone, if you don't feel like you have really strong communication with your venue, do a site visit and actually have them turn on the lights, make sure that all the things that they say are going to be there are there, make sure that everything is functional. This is not to say that the new collective won't be in great shape.
They're already really great about that, so.
Yeah, fantastic.
Back to subtitles. So obviously I didn't have time to pull anything in Korean because I'd have to learn it. But one thing I've always learned is white text or characters on a black background is the best contrast. So if you can make everything white characters, is it Korean subtitles or is it English subtitles?
It's Korean subtitles.
Okay.
So is it English.
Got you. So probably, oh damn, that sucks because I don't know that there's a bold Korean font. Like in English, you can make the text super bold and make it more legible.
We do.
You do, okay.
Yeah, Koreans do have bold fonts.
So then, that is the first and best thing you can always do because like here it says subtitles, but for the back, I will pick a big guy like Ariel Black. And it's bigger, and I can make it
My
larger.
issue is the whole projection is bleeding with the light.
So
Yes.
is it basically that you have a little bit of glow even when it's black that you don't like?
Right. So I just need a strip.
Video black.
A space.
The only solution for that I can think of would be to bring your own projector where you can create a flag out of a piece of black cardboard that physically cuts off the amount of light. Because I don't think that you're going to have enough time to climb up to their house projector and build a flag. It's not ideal.
Also make the subtitle on a, if it's a 1920 by 1080 image and you want the subtitle to just be a strip at the very top of that.
Correct, yes.
Then go into Photoshop and make yourself a black page and put your text up at the top and have that
And then
be part of
one
each
color
text.
bleed.
I mean, there's still going to be some light coming out of the projector, but since it's projecting in black, it's not going to.
I will also offer you this.
Oh, okay.
I will also offer you this,
That's that.
which is that the light bleed from a non-doused projector in a blackout is not ideal. You are correct that you will see a little bit of light. It might not matter. For this particular project and the story you're telling, if you can think up a really clever solution, by all means do it, but if you get to a point where you just can't figure out a way to get rid of that light bleed, then just forget about it, let it go.
They will forgive
Audiences
you.
will forgive you.
And like you can move stuff around. I'm doing this in QLab right now. I can put this where I want it to be, and then the rest of this is what we call video black because it's not really black. It's bright and kind of a bummer, but like it's survivable, particularly if you redefine what blackout is. Like
Remember
if your
also
blackout
that
has some low blue,
If you have a
wash
green
it
exit
out.
sign, if you have a green exit sign in the back of the theater, you're already not gonna have a blackout. And so if it's really an issue of you just don't like seeing that bit of video black, then, you know, maybe just come to love it. I don't think.
Yeah, there's always room to do more the next time you produce your show. And I mean, like if we were doing a show right now, there's a little bit of light leak from the window. There are shows that happen during the day, and that's just something everyone is chill with. So if it's something that's that far out of your control, but something that you definitely need for your show to have that part of it, cool.
All right, we had Mr. I think. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So is it me?
Yeah.
Okay. So projector, so you're talking about video being not the greatest thing because of technical worries, or, I mean, I guess my question is, if you're showing photos and video, and they're all programmed in QLab, do they all come on the same projector?
Yeah.
Okay, so
If
it's not
you,
really technically difficult.
Are you good at video editing?
Yeah.
You're good.
Yeah.
We only say this to people who have no idea what the hell they're doing and then walk out to try and make a bunch of video and they've never cracked After Effects or Motion. Like if you have skills, if you work in digital media or your Instagram or whatever, if you have the chops, it's just another set of cues. You just get your content lined up, know where it goes, go for it.
Just make sure you know what kind of adapter, if it's HDMI or VGA or whatever you need at the venue ahead of time, because if you show up and you can't plug in,
that's the bummer.
it's stressful. All right.
But QLab should be able to do it. So it's just have that conversation with your venue.
All right, you met.
This is minor, but you mentioned using, like, printing out a fresh script and using pencil. The one you showed had red. Which is preferred? Like, which should I do?
Check with your stage manager, definitely.
No,
Because
incorrect. No, pencil's preferred. I'm gonna go out and say this, and you know what? Maybe we'll do a scan for next time instead of PDF.
Yeah.
If you have that PDF where everything's printed and you get to tech and you need to move a cue, they need to cross it out and write it in. If you have a handwritten penciled script, you can erase it and move it. So.
And they make red pencils.
And they make red pencils. I am a pencil guy. I really always prefer to work with a hard copy and pencil.
I'm a digital guy, and I do all my script reading digitally, and I'm a little different. Plus, I don't move cues in tech.
All right.
All right. So with regards to kind of similar to this film especially, we have like 90 or so projection cues. It's like a PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah.
Really good. But the stage manager's never seen this before. And so our director had suggested, I don't know if this is feasible or advisable, but putting in little thumbnails of the actual, what they should see, because they're not going to know, at least the first time.
You mean in the call-in script?
In the prompt, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah.
That is a really great way to do it, especially if you print your script out, so it's script on one side, and then it's stage picture on the other. You can go like, you can do a timeline style thing with it, and then as they go through, they have reference points for it. Like that's what professional Broadway stage managers
front
do.
and back, or I printed in 75% and write everything.
Yeah.
That's the thing too.
Well,
I mean,
provide just the bare minimum. Any additional information you care to provide is always going to help.
yeah, if it's so clear that a child who has learned how to use a computer only yesterday can process and deal with it. Exactly, precisely. But yeah, I mean, like thumbnail timeline style is great. Just having the PowerPoint can work, or having the name of the cue, but like being able to see it really helps. And there's no law that says that the page on this side is page 1 and the page on this side is page 2, and ne'er shall the numbers change. It can be page 1, all the stuff happening on page 1, turn the page. Page 2, all the stuff happening on page 2, turn the page, etc. Like anything to make it clearer.
Just be careful of obfuscation. Don't put so much information that becomes muddled.
That's true. If you're like football scratch style blocking on a script and it's like, you could just say he crosses stage left. We'll get it.
Yeah. You have a question?
I just wanted to piggyback off something you said earlier about communicating with your stage manager and not being too specific. I think there's just from my experience, I think you can also be too vague. Like saying on it when I see it is not helpful.
That is not helpful. That's correct.
You've got like if you think through what you want, and if you can say, hey, can I get this more blue? And they're like, no, it's the best they could give you. Like, oh, it's great, it's beautiful, I love this sheet. Then, yeah.
Yeah. If you don't know the language of lighting enough to ask for specific things, then you have to just do the best job you can in saying what you're looking for. And if it's not what you want, but you don't know how to describe it, then that's what you have.
And there's nothing wrong with saying, can I try the blue? Can I try the red? Can I try both? Do that. That's part of setting lighting looks too. Like, you don't have to come in knowing how each proportion of the lights is going to affect this, that, and the other. That's totally fine, and something you do when you look at your lighting cue sheet and you're saying, this is the sad part where we go to Siberia, so can we have it cold, please? And then this is the happy part where the chair comes home from the war. We get to have it center stage again. Can I have a special, please? What do you have in terms of specials? Ideally, if you're going to visit the space and you haven't yet, you'll want to ask what sort of specials they have or what the situation with that is, if you even need them.
Good.
But yeah.
All right, yes.
Yeah, just a matter of like how to budget time during tech, because the show I'm doing is actually like 2 shorts. I wrote one and Fernando wrote the other, but I'm directing both of them. I'm just curious, like, any helpful tips how to break that down during the.
How long are each of them?
The total is like 65 minutes.
I would avoid having an intermission.
Yeah.
I know you may have been tempted to do something like that, but intermissions during Fringe are kind of it just doesn't really work.
Well, in terms of time management for tech, I would treat it as one play with 2 scenes.
Right.
And so I would just go through an order, and so if they're equal length things and you spend equal time on them, if one is longer, you just spend that much more time. But I don't think that it really changes much to have 2 separate plays. Just remember in between them, if you're going to have a blackout, are you going to do a curtain call in between? Don't wait till the end. Otherwise, it would just treat it like any normal evening.
Yeah, because it's real weird to do the split call bow at the end of one piece and then the other. People might leave. It happens. This type of a show happens sometimes, but it's on the rarer side to have this sort of double duty.
Random piece of advice. If you're doing a show that you don't have blackouts in, don't do a blackout within the last 20 minutes of the piece. Like, if it's a thing where every scene transition is a blue out, and then you have a moment where it's like, it's really serious, I'm going to go to full black before the last scene, what's going to happen is you're going to go to black, the audience is going to be like, oh, first blackout of the night, I guess the show is over. They start to clap, lights come on, the show keeps going, they say, oh shit, I wasn't supposed to clap. So then show ends, lights go down for real, and audience says, nah, you're not going to get me this time, and then you're having a really lousy curtain call. I've seen this happen so many times.
So many times.
Yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
Yeah. So I booked my show for 90 minutes, and we're running it, and it's well under that. Is there? I mean, I guess is that an issue? Obviously, we're not going to start.
No,
paying
opposite is bad.
No, that's a great
always
thing.
the opposite. Like, you can let people go early, and they will
I have
love
never
you.
once been disappointed by walking out of a Fringe show earlier than I anticipated.
Yeah, unless it ended.
However, you should, if you're definitely going to be down to a certain length, you should update it on the website so that people know to expect that.
Yeah, because they might not come to a 90-minute show, but if you're a 60 solid, that might open some stuff up.
And if I don't go to another show because I thought your show was 90 and it turns out I could have made it because it was only 60 minutes,
That's what
that would
I'm
be
more
super
worried about.
annoying.
Yeah, so just put a thing, change it exactly. Dave is you all know Dave, producing director of the Fringe Festival. Do what he said.
And the show was 80 minutes. There's no intermission. Use the restroom. So everybody knew it was going to.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Oh, don't run. If you run long, delete your account. Any other questions? Fantastic. As I said,
On the dot, 4, bam.
yeah, we are here at your disposal. We hope that this really helped you. Your tech should be fun and your Fringe should be fantastic. And I hope everyone here has the greatest summer of their lives.